Hey, Dad.
Yeah, Archer?
It's almost your birthday, right?
Yeah, it's coming up pretty soon. It's on the 19th. You know I share a birthday month with Tori Holt?
You know what you do on your birthday every year, right?
What I do on my birthday every year? Well, I mean, I eat cake.
No, not that.
Not that. Well, what else do I do?
You know, the fantasy football thing.
Fantasy football thing. Oh, the fantasy football thing. You know, I completely forgot about that. But it's time. I'm going to go home and I'm going to do those mock drafts. Thank you, son. I almost forgot.
Wait, I need a ride.
Welcome to the show and welcome to June. You know what that means. It's time for mock drafts in fantasy football. At least according to me. Maybe not according to anyone else on our panel today, but this is usually the time I start. Welcome to the show, everybody. I'm here with Jesse Larson and Austin Parr. We may be joined by another guest later, but that is yet to be seen. Jesse, you're in a new location.
Yeah, I'm in St. George, Utah, visiting some family right now, soaking up some sun, and it is hot here.
It looks nice and sunny outside. And Austin, you are also in a different location today.
Yeah, we are training our new sports reporter in Helena, who is replacing me, obviously, because I'm down in Bozeman now. So we're going to do some Legion High School baseball. It's very interesting. They still have Legion, even though high school baseball just became a sport in Montana, but not all the high schools took it. Anyway, long story short, I'm in Helena for today.
Right on. All right, guys. So fantasy football, I know we all play. I know we all like it. I don't know how serious you guys are about it, but for me, I live for it. I don't know what to tell you. When I win fantasy football trophies, it means more to me than a lot of accomplishments in life. Getting promoted at a job, who cares? I'd rather have that fantasy football belt. You know what I mean?
No, and I'm definitely not doing mock drafts in June.
I know people that start right after the draft, so I don't think June is too crazy. And I'm not starting yet. I start after my birthday, which is the 19th. And I don't think that's too early. I got to get my ducks in a row.
A week before your fantasy draft is plenty of preparation to get yourself a W as well. And I do have a couple W's in my belt.
Yeah, I got a second last year, so I can't complain too much. So, I mean, I start the last week of preseason. So, man, I'm good with that.
Let's get to some breaking news, gentlemen. The PGA this morning, Tuesday morning, with some huge news about a merger. Austin, you want to lead us off with that one?
Yeah, so this, like everybody else, the PGA Tour players found out just like we did. The news broke while I was driving up to Helena on Twitter. I almost crashed my car because I was like, what is happening? It's absolutely insane. There's so much to unravel here, but we don't have a lot of the details of what's happening yet. It's a very vague commercial entity that they're all combining in. PGA Tour, LIV, and the DP World Tour will now all be unified as one. It's very interesting from a lot of takes. You can go the Jay Monahan approach. You can go all the media's approach. There's a lot of different ways we can go about this, and we can get into it maybe next week when a lot of details come into this. But for now, the PGA Tour and all the things that it said poorly about all the players that, join the LIV Tour and everything that has come about them joining and their cancellation, basically. They're only allowed to play majors. They're not allowed to come out and play these events on the PGA Tour. That's all gone. There's no more litigation. There's no more legal matters. It's all a entity now, and it's a massive day for the game of golf. The players are not happy. A lot of live reactions on Twitter basically saying, how do I ever trust the PGA Tour again, because they don't even communicate this to us, and we find out on a platform like Twitter, which is absolutely ridiculous. But so many things unravel. What do you guys think? This is crazy.
This has happened so quick. I haven't even had time to see player reaction yet. I've only seen Just reaction from analysts this morning on what they've talked about, like Stephen A. Smith, Colin Cowherd. I've seen their takes on it so far. It's interesting. Obviously, you think about the player perspective. A lot of these guys left to get more lucrative deals, and you think about the ones that stayed behind that didn't want to abandon PGA, and all of a sudden now they are in the same league with these guys again. I feel like there's going to be a ton of conflict with these players. To your point, there already is. Jesse, you did tell me this morning this was an unprecedented move, and I feel like it definitely is because you have the individual players who are playing instead of teams as a collective. Give us your thoughts on that. Why do you think this is an unprecedented move?
Well, just like Austin said, this is something that you've never seen in the history of golf, and I don't think all the players were ready for it. Obviously, especially the guys that were, like Austin said, sticking around with the PGA Tour. What does this mean for them? How do they go forward with their careers? I just think it's unprecedented in the way that, like I said, this has never happened in the history of golf, and it is a massive undertaking for this to become one entity like this.
The best quote on Twitter that I've seen popping around is, "This is literally the Michael Scott Paper Company in real life." The golf Twitter world today is undefeated. It is like every single thing that I've seen. I mean, it's headlines. It's hilarious. We just can't wait for some of these people, I won't name names, to have a certain sort of reaction. Want to hear their comments. What led to this? Where do you stand now? Everything that you said about all these players and yada, yada, yada. And then same thing like Jesse said, like what's going to happen for these people that stay with the PGA Tour,
At the same time, real quick before we wrap this up, do you think that PGA owed it to the players to tell them? Because regardless of whether they told them or not, it was going to happen. And then you run the risk of them breaking the news and having the narrative come from them as a negative right from the get-go.
I think you got to give your people, your players, some type of inclination that this is going to happen. Obviously, you guys have already made the decision at a corporate level, at a commercialized level. But what about the people under you? You can't just let them find out from their parents or, from the fans and stuff like that. That's terrible business model, and it's really shameful on the PGA in my opinion.
Everything that you said that you didn't support, and you backed your players for not supporting that, not taking these deals and the money and this and that and but yada yada yada. You can't have the decency to say like, hey, just a heads up, maybe last week or yesterday, hey, by the way, we're in talks to try to make this merger happen. Or hey, by the way, before this breaks on Twitter and your mom tells you, and of all things, CNBC is the source that breaks it, not a golf source.
Yep.
Maybe you should let your quote unquote loyal players that were loyal to your brand, again, that you were not loyal to itself, maybe you should let them know.
Hey guys, guess who I got to join the show today?
Who?
His name starts with a J.
Jesse.
Well, besides Jesse.
Jordan.
Well, besides Jordan.
Joanne?
Yes, No. Jackson is here, everybody.
Hey.
I'm not going to clap too loud because I know the baby's probably sleeping right now.
Yes.
Okay.
Congratulations.
And I say congratulations. That's all you get because we can't pay for the royalties on that.
I've gotten copyright warnings on YouTube for the last few episodes. And it started when we did the draft episode, when we had the sound in the background. They gave me a copyright warning. And then I used Memorial Day pictures last week, got a copyright warning for that. Just a lot of stuff that I've been kind of pushing the line with. I feel like a real rebel here.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that the Law and Order one didn't get you busted.
Oh, it did. Well, it didn't get me busted, but they also sent me a warning for that one. So yeah, we're towing the line here. Good thing we're almost done with this first season. Anyways, speaking of almost being done for the season, there are a couple of leagues that are also almost done for the season. Well, one league and one association. We'll start with that association, and that is the National Basketball Association. We are 2 games in to the NBA Finals. gentlemen. And the series is even, to a little bit of my surprise. It's 1-1 right now. Miami went into Denver and took game 2, whereas Denver did lead game 1 pretty comfortably for most of the game. Now, they did lead by as many as 25, ended at like 10 or 11 point lead. For Miami, the formula was pretty simple. Their shooters simply didn't show up. Max Strus had a really, really bad game. Caleb Martin had a really, really bad game. And those are guys that they've been relying on lately. So shooters did show up. It was the opposite of that. In game 2, they took over in the fourth quarter. They dominated. They've been dominating all playoffs, to be honest, in fourth quarters. They have something like a 90-plus point differential in the fourth quarter, which is insane. What do you guys think of the limited action we've seen in the series so far?
The Miami Heat are still chopping at the bit. They have that grit. And I hope that this goes the entire 7 games, because while a lot of people probably aren't excited that Denver and Miami are your 2 teams in the finals, but it's good basketball and they play very methodically. And I just like how Jimmy Butler has continued to just count us out. We're still going to continue to fight and we're still in this. And that's what I love about the Heat.
Game 2 was game 1, no surprise. Game 2 is a little bit more surprising, but I think it was a tale of 2 games. As far as we talked about Miami's shooters not showing up, Denver's role players really didn't show up in game 2. Jokic is always going to put up his numbers. Guy's always going to pretty much be close to a triple-double. Didn't have a lot of assists in game 2, which was pretty interesting. Scored a lot, got his rebounds. But the reason why he didn't have a lot of assists is because he was creating the looks. His teammates just weren't knocking down shots. They missed a lot of open shots. I wouldn't worry if I was Denver fans. Miami, yes, they have that grit. They have that fight. And, I still want to see Jimmy Butler, win that title, but I think Denver's just that good, and I think Jokic is the best player in the league currently.
Let's take a look at the last 6 playoff games. Jimmy Butler has been Jimmy Butler for one of those games. It was game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals. Hasn't really been too prevalent in the first 2 games. He's had his moments here and there of this finals. Games 4, 5, and 6, there's a reason Boston came back. It's because Jimmy didn't dominate the game. He didn't take over. And that's what it's going to take for Miami to win this series. I don't see it happening. I think that Denver has found a way to limit him. I think they took a look at what the Celtics did right and mirrored that with bigger players, so they're a little bit of a size mismatch on that as well. When Jokic scores more than 40 points in the playoffs this year, the Denver Nuggets are 0-3. So he needs to be a distributor, but these shooters do need to knock down shots. I'm not too worried about it. Again, this was only the 4th game that Denver's lost this entire playoffs. The first one at home. They're really good on the road. I think it's still their series to lose, and I did say Denver in 5. I'm still pretty confident in that. I just don't see Miami taking over this.
Would any of y'all consider that the Miami flu may come in for some of these Denver players? I don't see it happening to the Joker, but just any of the other starters, bench players just coming in, and because we know what happens when a lot of players go to Miami. They party a little too hard that first little trip.
I think Denver has enough veterans that know in that locker room, like, to keep everybody under wraps. And also, like, Murray and Jokic are on a mission. I really think they're trying to bounce back from the bubble
Understandable.
and prove that they deserve a title. And so I don't see that happening at all. But you never know. Anything can happen.
Let's talk about this Stanley Cup final. So we are looking at, Jesse, we talked about this last week. It's kind of the opposite of what we had. We said that the Panthers had a better shot of being the 8th seed from Miami to win their final, as opposed to in basketball, where now the NBA is tied 1-1. Florida is down in a massive 0-2 hole going back to Southern Florida.
Yeah, and they're not just down 0-2. They've got their asses kicked in both games.
Yeah.
Like, it hasn't
Yes,
even
sir.
been close. Hasn't even been close. And it's pretty embarrassing for Florida because, like we had talked about last week, I was praising Matthew Tkachuk, how amazing he's played all season. He's got one good hit and hasn't played the puck in the blue zone hardly at all in either of these 2 games. And it's been pretty embarrassing for Florida to show zero resiliency and fight against Vegas. And I mean, kudos to Vegas. I can't stand them, but yeah, they're kicking their butts.
The game 2 that he played in, he got removed at the end on a 10-minute penalty. You could tell the frustration was getting to him. Vegas just had their way with them, especially in game 2. I think game 1, Florida lost that game, and game 2, Vegas won that game, if that makes sense. Because in game 1, Florida was 0-3 on power play opportunities. In fact, on one of those power play opportunities, the Golden Knights actually scored a shorthanded goal, and that really set the tone for the rest of the game. And mentally, it seems like it's really set the tone for the series.
I kind of disagreed with the officials set the precedents that they set for the end of game 2, because hockey, like you just said, is very physical. It's violent. I think Kachuk's hit on Jack Eichel was legal. It was a clean hit, and getting a game misconduct, I didn't like it. But I do agree with you, Jordan. The pressure is getting to him as this team's leader, and he's not really coming to the level that we had talked about last week, where he needs to lead this team to win a championship. And keep in mind too, Vegas got Jonathan Marchessault, who has been kind of their leader these first 2 games. They got him from Florida in the expansion draft. So it's kind of a double-edged sword for Florida. For who they got in that trade, Alex Petrucci is not in the NHL anymore. Right. And the 2 guys that Vegas got are leading their team to what looks like a Stanley Cup title in just 5 years.
Well, it looks like, I guess, the Cinderella story of what is the Florida Panthers is just kind of fizzling out. They were a great story to root for, and it just looks like Vegas is just too dominant for them right now. I just hope that if it does turn into a sweep, that the Panthers crowd just doesn't start to boo like Dallas did for the Stars. That's just, why would you do something like that? Be happy that you're there. You're just, the better team won, and you just have to face facts. There's nothing wrong with that. Just, I just can't stand specific fan bases that always boo their home team whenever they're not playing up to their level that they expect them to play to. They're the ones that are on the ice. They're the ones that are on the field.
When you think of NHL success, you think of teams like Pittsburgh, Boston, Montreal, and Chicago for that success. Tampa Bay had a couple titles the last few years, but you don't think of the Florida Panthers when you think of hockey. And it's just it's a new dawn, I guess, for them and their fans, because they're not used to this success at all.
I mean, they're just getting so dominated in every single aspect on the ice. It doesn't even look like whether home ice will matter or not. I think game 3 will obviously tell the whole story. They lose game 3, it's definitely probably over. We'll see how fired up they come out in game 3, some of the adjustments maybe they make. Hopefully, turn the puck over less, things like that. So we'll see what happens. But Vegas looks like they're on a mission to get their first Stanley Cup.
Guys, it's been fun. I'm going to have to bounce. Someone's calling, but it's been great to see everyone. I hope y'all have a great rest of your week. Hopefully can jump back on sometime next week. And I'm just going to say go Heat. The fantasy football thing, I wish I could have been here for that, but no, we don't need to talk about fantasy right now. That's me. I'm Jackson Cochran. I'm going to bounce. I'm going to leave it at that. Later, guys.
See you, Jackson. Thanks for coming on, my friend.
Jackson.
Thank you.
See you, bud.
Well, guys, let's shift away from talking pro sports finals. We got the Women's College World Series going on. I've been watching that religiously. Even on the drive out to Utah, man, I was listening to softball the whole way, and got to see Oklahoma State eliminate Utah. Just came up short the other day against Tennessee, but man, Oklahoma, man, I was so upset that Stanford couldn't get the W. I don't know about you guys and how into college sports you are, but I just love seeing student athletes perform at the level that they do. It is incredible, and not gonna lie, I'm a little jealous.
Hey, like I said last week, we don't coddle to the guests who are on the show, so we're gonna talk about Oklahoma on this one.
Yeah, and that hey, more credit to him. I mean, the pitching staff, the fielding, and the offense. My God, it's just insane what they do on a softball field. I'm looking forward to seeing Catherine Sandercock and Florida State take on this offense of Oklahoma because this championship series is going to be incredible, and it's a rematch as well.
Yeah, game one is going to start Wednesday. This Oklahoma team is it reminds me of South Carolina in the women's basketball as well, where they've only lost one game all season, if I'm correct.
Yeah, they lost 4-3 to Baylor. And then after they lost to Baylor, they came out against the number 2 ranked UCLA Bruins and beat them 14-0 the following game. I don't want to say it's a dynasty because you can't really talk about dynasties when it comes to college sports because the players are rotating all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But man, what Patty Gasso has done in Norman, Oklahoma is just it's insane. And as much as I put our rivalry with like Oklahoma State, Oklahoma's rivalry up at the top echelon, we're just not at their level. And nobody in the country is at their level. I like Florida State 2-1. To be honest, I think Florida State is going to get it done. And this win streak, this record-breaking win streak for Oklahoma is going to come to an end.
Jesse, what I was going to say is you can 100% call it a dynasty. You were saying how the players switch hands and stuff, but if you think of it as the professional organizations do, right? So they draft players, right? And it starts at the top. Scouting department, who they want to come play for their team. Well, it's the same thing in college with recruiting. And if you look back, I think it's been at least 10 years of dominance now, 8 to 10 years, right? Of just softball pure dominance in the softball universe. I mean, close to that, right?
I mean, 5 national championships in 15 years is something to be said. I mean, Patty Gasso has been at OU for 25 years now, 27 years now, and she has like an 870 win percentage or something like that.
So that's what I'm saying. If you go back to the very beginning when they started with that recruitment process, with those original players, went on the run that they did, and then the continuance of dominance and bringing in more recruitment, bringing in more of the top players. All the best players want to go play for them. Why? Because they're the best in the nation, of course. So I think that's why you can 100% call it a dynasty. They're one of the most dominant teams in NCAA softball history.
Jesse, over on the men's side of things, the super regionals are set. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, this is one of the craziest regionals I think I've ever seen. And I said that last year. So for me to say it again this year, it's insane. We got, let me count it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 national seeds are going home after regionals. I do have the flag right here. My boys belong in the trash right now.
Oh,
after the most embarrassing performance at a home regional I've ever seen in my life. We got beat 6-4 by Oral Roberts, and then we got beat 18-4 by Dallas Baptist. Pathetic performance. Kudos to Oral Roberts, though. The only 4 seed to make it out of a regional this year. They're going to be headed to Eugene, Oregon, to take on another unseeded team in Oregon. You saw the number 3 Arkansas, number 4 Clemson go down, number 6 Vanderbilt went down. It was crazy. And looking at, I got to shout out Trey Richardson for TCU. Set an NCAA tournament record, a regional record with 20 RBIs in 3 games for TCU. The kid had 2 grand slams in the first 2 innings. So shout out TCU's Trey Richardson, a monstrous performance this weekend at the plate. So I'm blown away by the amount of parity in college baseball right now. Like we talked about before, Jordan, with the MLB draft being shortened and the MILB cutting down to about, like, I think it's in half. They're cut like 20, 25 teams. You're seeing so much better competition and so much more talent at the collegiate level now. And it's just so awesome to see, man. I love it.
In a sport where they play with wooden bats, talking Major League Baseball, let's talk about some of these things that have been going on. I don't like to praise division rivals ever, but thank God it's not the Astros I'm talking about. I need to talk to you guys about what's going on just north of there. I need to talk about the Texas Rangers. So a lot has been happening with them. I don't know if you guys saw, Jesse, I know you saw. The run differential that Texas has right now is staggering. I haven't seen very many teams get to this accomplishment this early in the season. They're at like plus 150 something right now. It's crazy to see.
And they've also put up, I think they've set a new major league record for the first 100 games of the season. They've got like 26 games or something like that where they scored 10 runs or more. Don't quote me on that. I don't know the exact number of games, but it is incredible the amount of offensive production they're putting out there.
The bats have definitely come alive. Some other news for the Texas Rangers. We all kind of expected this. DeGrom's been out since late April. They did officially transfer him to the 60-day IL. Definitely not what they would have hoped to see from a huge signing like DeGrom, but it looks like he is going to be back probably mid-July-ish. Got to go on rehab first. Maybe they get him back in full force in August. But maybe he'll be back to his prime by the time playoffs come around. Texas is definitely making the playoffs.
Oh, it looks that way for sure. Even with DeGrom out, their pitching staff doesn't need it right now. They're getting that cushion of 9-10 runs a game. You know, they're not worried about pitching right now.
Pretty sure we talked about this months ago, but they have been trying to build towards something like this for a lot of years now, with certain signings of certain players, spending money in the offseason. And, you know, so far it's slowly starting to pay off. And Josh Jung is on my fantasy team. Guy's been solid all year long. It's been a great addition to my squad. So I'm not a Rangers fan, but go Rangers.
Before they got their god-awful City Connect uniforms, they had the best uniforms in baseball, I would say. They're just the red, white, and blue, even the road gray, just the big Texas across the front. I thought those colors were really, really cool. Yeah, I don't know what the hell's going on with that, but it's working for him. I think it's atrocious.
I think whoever is in charge of marketing for a lot of these certain City Connect / random alternate jerseys probably should, reconsider their job position.
Reconsider what's going on in their lives. Other quick note, by the way, Bruce Bochy, with a win a couple of days ago, was thrusted into the top 10 all-time in managerial wins. Bruce Bochy, you think of his days in San Diego, not a ton of success, but in San Francisco, obviously huge success, 3 rings. And it looks like he's picking up right where... Sorry, Mr. Dodgers fan, but like I said, we don't cater to anybody on the show based on their preference of teams, unless your name's Jordan Wright. So anyways, yeah. Bruce Bochy, great manager in San Francisco. Looks like he's picking up right where he left off in Texas. 10th all-time in managerial wins. Congratulations to him. Looks like he's going to be moving up that ladder and finish higher than 10th when he retires. A little bit of trivia for you guys, and I'm going to ask you this. You might get it right away, you might not. There is another active manager who is ahead of Bruce Bochy on that list. Can you guys name that manager?
I'm going to say Dusty Baker.
Dusty Baker is the correct answer.
Yeah.
He is currently 8th all-time.
Yeah.
I was hoping that'd be a little more challenging. Buck Showalter's pretty high on that list too. Bob Melvin is a little bit lower, but he's up there. I think he's top 25 right now. And he's not... The distance between 10 and 25 is not much. It's a couple hundred games. So yeah. Another guy that could get up there soon as well. Phyllis, thank you so much for joining the show. We'll pretend that Jackson is saying peace out right now from Spring, Texas, but from somewhere on the road in Montana to somewhere in the state of Utah to somewhere in the middle of California. Guys, thank you for coming on, and we will see the rest of you next week. Peace out.
Peace out, y'all.
And peace out for Jackson.
Appreciate ya. See ya.
Adios.
It's never too early to draft when it's a league.
No, say, it's never too early to draft if you win your league.
It's never too early to draft it if it's your league.
Let's try it one more time. Say, it's never too early to draft if you win your league.
It's never too early to draft if it's your league.
Good enough.